When we talk about inclusion in education, we mean creating a learning environment where every student is valued, respected, and given the opportunity to be able to have the support they need to reach their potential. This isn't just about students with disabilities, it includes students from different cultural backgrounds, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, students with diverse learning needs, and those from varied social and economic circumstances. Inclusive education ensures that all students can fully participate in classroom learning, school activities, and the broader school community. It's about recognizing and celebrating diversity rather than viewing it as a challenge to be overcome. We aim to create a sense of belonging for every child. Importantly, inclusion means identifying and removing barriers to learning and participation. This might involve making reasonable adjustments to teaching, providing additional supports, or rethinking how activities are run so that all students can be involved. In Australia, this approach is not optional. It is supported by law and policy. The Disability Discrimination Act of 1992 makes it unlawful to discriminate against a student based on the disability. The Disability Standards for Education in 2005 outlined how schools must provide equal opportunities. The Education Act commits to equity and excellence for all learners. Together, these frameworks guide our practices and we ensure we meet our legal and ethical obligations as educators. Ultimately, inclusion benefits everyone. It creates richer learning experiences, it teaches empathy and respect, and it builds stronger communities. Inclusion is important because, first and foremost, education is a human right. Internationally, the United Nations Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities 2006 recognizes that every child should have access to quality education without discrimination. In Australia, this is supported by the Discrimination Act of 1992 and the Disability Standards for Education 2005, which make it clear that schools must actively support inclusion. But inclusion isn't only about meeting legal obligations, it's also about creating the best learning environment possible. Research shows that inclusive classrooms improve outcomes for all students. When diverse learning needs are included, schools adopt teaching strategies that are more flexible, creative, and responsive. This benefits every child, not just those with additional needs. Inclusion also strengthens the social fabric of the school community. It helps students build empathy, respect, and social skills. Children learn that difference is normal and valuable, that everyone has something to contribute. This supports the development of a caring and respectful community and as well as a classroom. Finally, inclusion reflects Australia's broader educational commitments, which emphasises equity and excellence for all learners, and the recognition of celebrating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures. These policies make it clear that inclusion is essential to our education system, not an add-on or optional extra. In summary, inclusion is about rights, fairness, and belonging. It's about improving educational outcomes, preparing children for life in a diverse society now, and building skills that reflect the values we want in our communities and for our future selves.
The Children and Students with Disability Policy is a significant policy that outlines how education providers in South Australia must uphold the rights of children and students with disability at the policy's core. It also emphasises that all students must be able to access, participate, and achieve in education on the same basis as their peers, regardless of their students' disabilities. It aligns with the equity and fairness that is in both state and national legislation, including the Discrimination Act of 1992 and the Disability Standards of Education 2005. A central focus for the policy is that the requirement for schools and early childhood services to make adjustments within reason. This includes, as a teacher, adapting teaching practices, assessments, and the physical barriers so that every student is able to shine in the classroom, no matter their disability. Rather than adopting a one-size-fits-all approach, the policy reinforces the idea that inclusive practices must be tailored to the needs of each individual student. The policy also indicates the range of stakeholders. This includes children and students who have the disabilities themselves and who are positioned at the centre of the decision making, families and caregivers that are recognised as essential partners, with the policy emphasising collaborative planning and consultation. Educators, school leaders and support staff are asked with implementing inclusive practices, while allied health professionals and external service providers contribute specialist expertise. No longer is it a question of whether students should be consulted about their education, rather the question is how to consult students, including those with disability, in authentic and meaningful ways, not to make the teacher the main responsibility, but also the student. The benefits of the policy extend beyond for the individual. For children and students with disability, the policy ensures that they are afforded dignity, respect and equal opportunity. Families benefit from being included as valued partners in their child's education, strengthening trust and communication with schools. Importantly, the broader school community will be able to benefit from the students through the development of environments that promote empathy, respect and appreciation for diversity.
The Children and Students with Disability Policy 2024 requires schools to embed inclusive practices across classrooms and the whole school community. For teachers, this means making reasonable adjustments to curriculum, teaching strategies, and assessments so that every student can participate and succeed. Differentiated instruction, use of assistive technologies, and flexible learning environments are key approaches. For parents, the policy highlights the importance of collaboration and shared decision-making. Teachers must work in partnership with families, valuing the knowledge of their child and involving them in the planning and reviewing processes. At a community level, the policy promotes a whole school culture of inclusion where diversity is respected by all members of the school community, contributing to creating an incredible learning environment. This involves leadership commitment, staff training, and fostering peer acceptance so that students with disability experience a genuine sense of belonging.
The Education and Early Childhood Services Registration and Standards Act of 2011 South Australia is a foundational act that regulates the operation, registration and standards of all education and early childhood services throughout South Australia. The act was passed to ensure that all children in the state have access to high quality, safe and care by establishing comprehensive criteria for providers and of course a central authority. It mandates that all early childhood services, including long daycare, family daycare, and preschools, must be registered and regularly reviewed for compliance with state-based and national quality benchmarks. Registration and ongoing enforcement are overseen by the Education Standards Board, which has the power to grant or revoke registration, investigate complaints, and ensure the quality and safety of all services. One of the key features of the Act is the commitment to its rights and safety of children. It sets out principles that puts children's well-being, learning and the development at the centre of all policy decisions, aligning with the broader national education and care services national law. This includes requirements for child protection, staff qualifications, curriculum frameworks, physical safety, and working with children's checks, measures which collectively provide assurance for parents and carers. Furthermore, the Act recognises the importance of parental choice, enabling families to select from a diverse array on quality assured services. The Act delivers clear benefits to multiple stakeholders. Children are the core recipients as they are ensured safe, engaging environments designed to maximise their learning and health outcomes. Parents and carers also benefit, gaining confidence in the oversight of services and the transparency and compliance. The ability to compare registered providers empowers families to make informed decisions. Service providers and educators are provided with explicit standards and ongoing professional guidance, reinforcing accountability and continuous improvement across the sector. On a broader scale, the community as a whole benefit from the increased school readiness, equity, and the social inclusion that higher quality early education produces. Critically, while the Act establishes a forward-looking framework for quality assurance and the child's safety, it also introduces complexity, especially for smaller or non-traditional services that may face compliance costs. Some types of early childhood services not covered by national standards fall under state-specific provisions, which can lead to inconsistent outcomes across different service models. Additionally, the need to balance quality controls with flexibility and innovation is an ongoing policy challenge, and as it is the potential burden on rural or specialist service providers. Nevertheless, by embedding continuous feedback and review, the Act seeks to remain responsive to changing community needs and educational priorities. In summary, the Education and Early Childhood Services Registration and Standards Act of 2011 South Australia provides the structure for a transparent, responsive and child-centred education and care system, delivering significant protection and the quality assurance to all who engage in early years service in South Australia. The Education and Early Childhood Services Registration and Standards Act of 2011 South Australia sets the legal framework for the registration, quality and standards of schools and the early childhood services in South Australia. For classroom practice, this means teachers must ensure that pedagogy and learning environments align with the national agreed standards, such as the National Quality Standard and the Australian curriculum. For children, the Act ensures they have access to safe, high-quality education and the care that supports their learning and well-being. This includes consistent expectations for curriculum delivery, assessment and learning environments across all services. For parents, The Act promotes trust and confidence in education providers by requiring accountability, transparency, and compliance with quality standards. Families can also expect that services must meet rigorous requirements for staffing, governance, and child safety. This includes working with children's checks and other forms of documentation. For the community, the Act fosters a whole of a system approach to education in early childhood, ensuring equity, consistency, and high standards across schools and early learning centres. This builds stronger community trust and reinforces the role of education as a shared social responsibility.